calling you out 373. You're making the rest of the street
The American Football Conference.
If you've been in movies and you've got millions.
in what? I mean, say what you will about him.
Best team in the NBA.
Greetings, everyone. Talking Trash is here with a little bit of, I've decked the halls.
See, a little Christmas cheer for us. I appreciate that. The decorations. You worked, what, about a couple minutes before we got on?
Couple minutes, went to the dollar store, got a few items. That's what the show's budget is. So I tried to keep it under budget. By the way, next week I'm going to mix you into that whole beginning of the program. So it's going to become
really?
official.
Oh, so I'll be back then.
I needed some more footage of you. So I needed last week's and today's. So be on your best behavior. We're going to kick it off with our 1 hot minutes, and I guess I've drawn the short straw or long straw, depending on what you think of it. And I'm going to go ahead and start my time right now. I want to talk about the NBA and their players being spoiled and requesting way too much. What's going on right now with CP3, Chris Paul, and Dwight Howard. Their contracts aren't up yet people are shopping for them and looking for them, and they're talking to teams like they're free agents. I thought the whole point of the lockout was to try to have the owners say to the players, hey, we're in control, and give you a little less control. And yet it still feels like the players are kind of running this league, but yet the players are not happy about stuff either. So I feel like they're playing the NBA season and we're getting it, and that's kind of a good thing, but I'm not really sure where everyone stands. But they need to put the block on this. If you've got a contract with a team and the team wants to talk about trading with you, then the team can talk about it. But the players shouldn't be involved with it. And if you sign a contract somewhere, guess what? Just like anywhere else, you've got to fill it. You've got to take that time and you got to play out your contract. And if you want to get traded before then, you talk to management about it behind closed doors. All this stuff shouldn't be out in the open game.
So, Jace, you sound very disgruntled about the NBA situation.
I am disgruntled about it. I wanted the NBA back. We talked about it here on the show all fall long about how I thought the NBA should come back, and I still feel that way. I love the sport and I love watching basketball. But I don't feel like this thing got really solved. I feel like they signed this deal and there's agreement down, but I still feel like the NBA has a lot of problems that I wish they would have addressed during this time off instead of just coming back and having there still be inmates running the ship.
Well, it just seems as if the NBA just put a minor Band-Aid on a bigger issue.
That's what I'm saying.
And what else is happening is because the season's 10 days, 11 days away.
Yep.
I mean, they're trying to make all these moves and free agent signings and trades that normally take the span of the entire summer in order to go through, and you're condensing this into a 2-week process.
Do I need this anymore is what I want to know. Am I supposed to wear this as a fan? Am I supposed to have my Dwight Howard Magic jersey, or am I supposed to be looking to try? What's going on? That's all I want to know.
You can have it and put a Ghostbuster on the number, probably. That would be about it.
I'm not happy with the way he's handling the situation, but we can get to that later because you have to kick it off with your 1 hot minute.
Before that, Jason?
Yes.
Check Gabe's mic.
Gabe's
Not sure
mic.
it's on.
What are we checking about it?
If it's on.
It appears to be on.
All right.
Are you not hearing him? Because we can switch it with the
We
one on the
may be
phone.
experiencing some technical difficulty. If you can't hear, if my mic's not working, they wouldn't hear that either, huh?
Well, they would kind of hear you through this one. 'Cause that one's on. Try that one, see what that is. He was on 3, yes. Now he's on 2. How's that working for you?
This work? This good for you? This looks like it's spring training for us as
Well,
well.
now you got the clip, but you lost the
Yeah.
mic.
Let's go.
Well, let me just say I'll keep talking about Dwight Howard while you get your mic fixed. I just don't understand why, I've always liked Dwight Howard. I found him to be a pretty respectable guy, yet he's coming out and saying he wants to be traded, and then he says, well, I love Orlando, and I love the city, and I want to stay here, and I've done a lot for it. And it's like, well, you either keep your mouth shut and you play your contract out, or you say, hey, yeah, I do want to be traded, and you let the team try to do what they do. And I think that Dwight doesn't want to become a guy who's looked at like Shaq, who just got out of town, or a guy who's like LeBron James and didn't give his team a chance to rebuild. And that's why the Magic have been thinking about shopping him around. I get that they want to try to get something for him, but I think if he stays with the Magic, they could have a pretty good season. So it just seems a little silly to run away so soon. And I think if the Magic got stuck and they didn't have anybody left, at least they'd have the cap space to sign somebody else.
It just seems that Howard's enamored with the idea of following what Shaq did and going to LA or going to
New York/New Jersey. And that's where all the endorsements are made. That's what, I mean, they want to play on Broadway. They don't want to play in Disney World.
Oh, come on. I mean, I could see that, but Dwight's in a lot of commercials. He's got a lot of national recognition. I mean, I don't know as though he needs to go to one of those big cities to be a bigger face for the NBA than he already is, although maybe the ceiling hasn't been reached, but it just seems like he's in a ton of commercials. He's big with Adidas. He's kind of everywhere already. I don't know if he needs to be in that big media market, but like you say, I mean, maybe Dwight wants to be the next Shazam or Kazam or whatever the heck the name of that dumb movie was that Shaq does. Maybe he wants to put out a multi-platinum album or something. I don't know. He's got a lot of personality, so it's hard to say.
He does. It'll be interesting to see how the Magic proceed. I mean, the Magic own his rights for at least one more season. So if they want to, cut bait with them and make the best trade possible, some argue it might be right now. Others may say it might be closer to the trade deadline if there's a team desperate to make a trade by then.
Right.
So for now, though, the Magic look like they're holding steady and won't make a trade for the immediate future.
Well, yeah, but it changes, seems to be every day, because if you'd asked me about this at the end of Thursday last week or so, I would have been like, no way he starts the season in a Magic jersey, and I don't want him to. And now things have changed. And by the way, I kind of almost don't want him to, because I feel like he really doesn't want to be there. I think he's just not saying it because he doesn't want people hopping all over him. But I really don't feel like he wants to be there. And I think that it'll be interesting to see how he is received by the fans, whether they're buying into this, I kind of like it, I kind of want to stay thing, or whether they see through it and make their own judgment. It's hard to say.
Well, it's looking like he's heading towards a LeBron James type of deal. Granted, he's not from the Orlando area,
True.
but I think there's no way for him to win if he leaves, except for himself and his bank account. But I think he'll be perceived as a bad guy in Orlando for the remainder of his career. But the fans will get over it, and I'm sure Dwight will get over it because he'll probably land where he wants.
I needed that because I didn't think I was going to get over it. Thanks, thanks, Gabe. 'Cause I am pretty mad about it right now, but I wish they'd just figure out what they're going to do one way or the other and have it be done. Because I think everyone's sick of hearing about it. Are you ready for your one hot
I
minute?
am ready.
Hit him
So
with the good
to
stuff.
take a 180 from Dwight Howard and Jason's rant about being upset about the NBA, I just wanted to touch base about the Heisman race that ended last Saturday with Robert Griffin III winning the Heisman Trophy, which is really significant because he played for Baylor University, not a proverbial hotbed of football, if you will. But the biggest thing I took out of Robert Griffin winning was the belief he had in himself. All the major programs in the Big 12, the Texases, the Oklahomas, all wanted him to matriculate on campus, but they wanted him to play wide receiver, defensive back, running back, play a position where he could use his speed. Didn't really have the belief in him that he could be a quarterback. But 3-4 years ago when he made the decision to go to Baylor, it was primarily due to the fact that Baylor was the only university that promised him an opportunity to play quarterback. And 4 years later, they have been rewarded with their trust in him and his ability to play that position, and he won the Heisman Trophy. So Robert Griffin III, I think he's emblematic of what's good about college sports nowadays. You're not seeing a lot of the brighter sides of college athletics with what you're seeing at Syracuse, Penn State, the college basketball brawl between Xavier and Cincinnati. So just want to say kudos to Robert Griffin III and congratulations on winning the Heisman.
That's true. It happens a lot in sports. It happens a lot in life. Think about your work at your job. How often are you commended for doing something right? Yet if you do something wrong, somebody's hopping all over you. So I think it's just maybe the nature of the beast and the way the world works. But you're right. It's nice to take a moment and say to someone like Robert Griffin III, hey, you did a heck of a job. And like you said, told to play a different position. Baylor says, no, we're going to let you come in and do this that way. And he did it to the best of his ability and to the best of anyone in the college football's ability. So it's impressive. And you got to tip your hat if you were wearing one. I'll turn mine around so I can tip it. And now I'll turn it back. Are you ready for word association, my
I
friend?
am ready for word association.
I'm going to hit you with mine first because you just touched on my first one. So I'm going to give you mine first. I got the Xavier and Cincinnati brawl.
Embarrassing.
Tebow versus Brady.
Brady.
Giants win or Cowboys lose?
Giants win.
Derek Jeter.
Old.
James Harrison. Yeah.
Keep hitting.
All right. All right. Those are the ones I had down. Interesting
so,
things.
So let's go back to you with some word association. So Sid the Kid Crosby.
Seeing stars.
And we're not talking about the ones you find in LA or Hollywood.
I'm talking about the cartoon bird kind. Tweet, 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 tweet.
David Stern.
Stuffy.
Albert Pujols contract.
Ridiculous.
UVM men's basketball.
Sliding.
And last one, you kind of gave this one to me as well, but the Colt McCoy hit.
Overhyped.
Okay.
I feel like to stay on that James Harrison and the hit thing. I feel like James Harrison gets in trouble for this a lot because he seems to do it a lot. But they are taking a lot of stuff away from what those guys are allowed to do. And when you're out on the field, I know from when I played football, it was your first thought is, I got to get this guy to the ground. You know what I mean? You can't have this guy run in for a touchdown if you're, for some reason, on the defensive end of things. Now, you don't want to necessarily reach out and grab a guy's face mask or do something illegal, but if I grab that guy's face mask, they get a 15-yard penalty. If I don't grab his face mask and he gets away, they score a touchdown. So it's kind of like you can find the person as much as you want off the field, but when they're on the field and they're in the moment, those moments where helmets hit helmets and guys collide, they're going to happen out there. And I think we don't want to have these players be afraid of it, because then the scores are going to be insane. There's never going to be any defense. Unfortunately, James Harrison is in that zone where we're trying to figure that all out.
Yeah, I think this time James Harrison was somewhat innocent. I think in the game of football, it's high risk, high reward. I mean, quarterbacks slide for a reason, so they don't get hurt.
Right.
That's waving the white flag. So when Colt McCoy decides to scramble out of the pocket and wants to complete a pass and James Harrison is bearing down on him, he has to know that when he throws that pass, he is defenseless.
Yep.
And he's going to be subject to a severe hit. So I think in that case, Harrison was well within his rights as a player. So I think he's just getting a bad rap also due to reputation and things of that nature. So
there's definitely a lot of that reputation thing, and not to gloss over that whole football thing, but I think when you talk about reputation, we haven't mentioned it yet, but I got a bobblehead of him here and I'm wearing his jersey. When it comes to reputation, Ryan Braun had a really good reputation, and I think that like when Barry Bonds got busted, all of a sudden everybody hops all over him. Yet I feel like this Ryan Braun story isn't maybe as big as it should be, because this guy's the NL MVP. I mean, he just won the MVP, and now there's this drug scandal out about him. And he's been quoted before as saying he didn't know why anyone would do it, and he was asked about it a lot in the A-Rod days because he played with him at Miami University. And now all of a sudden here he is, supposed to be one of the faces of the game today, coming out in a story like this. Now I think if it's not Ryan Braun and it was somebody who was like more like A-Rod was a player who maybe a lot of people didn't like. He rubbed some people the wrong way. So when it came out about him, it's the biggest story in the whole wide world. Now because Ryan Braun is in a lesser market and maybe not perceived as someone people don't like in the sports world, I feel like it's almost people are waiting to reserve judgment until they hear, or, well, let's wait and hear what happens with the appeal. But obviously I'm jaded because I'm a Ryan Braun fan, but I don't think that, I feel like there's got to be something askew here. I don't think his numbers changed that much from season to season. I don't know if this is a problem with baseball's testing, which they thought at this point was perfect, or whether it really is something that Ryan Braun did. And I'm going to reserve judgment until we know for sure.
Well, if I didn't know you were a Brian Braun cheerleader after seeing you wear his jersey, now I really know. But I think what you mentioned was valid, especially Braun playing in the small media market. I mean, how many people know who Ryan Braun is? You have to be an avid baseball fan. I mean, it's part of the reason to go back to Dwight Howard, why he would like to play in a major media market. I mean, Brian Braun's an attractive guy. If he played in New York for the Mets or Yankees, he'd be a household name. He would be doing endorsements, and then there'd be a lot more publicity in terms of his drug
Sure.
result.
Yep.
But I also think because he hasn't had anything in the past that would indicate that he, has been involved with any wrongdoing, he might be getting a free pass. Plus, you know what? Baseball is not America's favorite pastime anymore. It's football. So now we're in the heart of football season. You have college football winding down. You have all the talk about the NBA.
Yep.
So Brian Braun, for a New York Minute, if you will, he gets mentioned and he's in the front of every newspaper. But now, after a few days, everyone wants to talk playoffs stuff. So I think that's what's, keeping this from being a larger conversation.
Well, let me ask you this. If for some reason they do this appeal and everything turns out and they can't find anything to overturn it, what do they do about the NL MVP award? Do they take it away from him, or should he get to keep it anyway?
Sure, he'll get to keep it, and they may do what they do with Barry Bonds, little asterisk, unfortunately. But, I would be, for once in my life, I think I'm with the 99%. I think I'm probably agreeing that he probably did something where you're a 1%er on this.
Oh, I know I'm in the 1%. Because a lot of other people, like you say, may not even. It is silly to think of for me, but people don't maybe know who Ryan Braun is. He just won the NL MVP, led the Brewers to the NL Central crown, but unless you're a really avid baseball fan, you still might not. This guy's not a household name. He's not a Derek Jeter. He's not one of the most fascinating people in the world. And maybe if he was in New York, he would be, but he's not.
And unfortunately, in sports, unlike the courtroom, you are guilty until proven innocent.
That's true. It's true. Well, for now, I sit on his side of the courtroom and hope that things work out for him, because he seems like a good guy. He seems like the kind of person that wouldn't do it. And I feel like if something happened, it happened maybe without his knowledge. Maybe someone slipped him something. Come on, I'm holding out hope. But you can't prove that. There'd be no way to probably prove that. So unfortunately, you may have to eat this, and it's really going to hurt the Brewers if they start the season without Prince Fielder and without Ryan Braun for 50 games. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Let's get to the NFL real quick, because there was some big matchups. Both Tebow and the Giants, the Broncos and the Giants coming back improbably. I think the Giants' comeback was bigger because they needed it. It was on the road. Their backs were to the wall. You said that you thought the Giants won when I asked you in word association because it wasn't the Cowboys losing, but the Cowboys could have very easily finished that off and just didn't. And it seems like they've had trouble finishing games all year long, and the Giants struck while the iron was hot, and Eli is doing his best fourth quarter magic of any season yet. And I don't know if he's maybe not getting the credit he deserves or not, but the Giants are in the driver's seat now, I think.
Oh, Giants are definitely in the driver's seat, especially since they have one game remaining with the Cowboys. That'll be in New York. But, the biggest play of the game, if you ask me, was when the Cowboys had their second to last possession when they were ahead in the game. Tony Romo on third down had a wide open Miles Austin who'd beaten Aaron Ross by about 5 steps, and Tony Romo overthrew him. The ensuing drive, Giants come down, score, very little time left, and then once the Cowboys get the ball back, they have to settle for a field goal that gets blocked by Jason Pierre-Paul. So I think, biggest difference in the game, like you mentioned, how Eli Manning's playing. Conversely, how's Tony Romo playing? And what's a shame for Romo is Romo actually had a really good game.
Sure did.
But, stars are made when the lights shine bright.
Right.
At the end of game situations, and you're going to be decided on whether you win or lose games.
He's the perfect parallel to Tim Tebow, really, for the weekend, because he couldn't get it done in the clutch, whereas Tebow always gets it done in the clutch. But he got it done for 3.5 quarters. That's the time Tebow can't play.
See, I think the thing that with Tebow is there's a lot of people who are anti-Tebow. You just look at Brian Urlacher's comments after the game. He says Tebow makes a pretty good running back.
Yep.
Well, if that were the case, how can your stellar defense allow him to win the game?
Right.
At the end. You shut him out for 58 minutes, and then they scored 10 points in the final 2 minutes. So is that more credit to Tebow, or is that do you have to look in the mirror at your defense and say, hey, we couldn't get it done? So I think those cheap shots at Tebow really discredit what he's done for the team. A lot of times people look at numbers and statistics, but what he's doing obviously can't be measured by that.
That's true. The only way it can be measured is if you're playing the Madden game and you see a guy's clutch rating or you see what kind of teammate rating he has, because he seems to really lift everybody up in the moments where it counts. I was really surprised to hear some of that stuff from Brian Urlacher and the Bears afterwards, who were obviously really upset about that. And obviously they would like a little more offensive support, and then maybe it wouldn't have been an issue, but you're absolutely right. If he's such a good running back, shut him down. There's absolutely no reason that they should have been able to score all of a sudden in the last few minutes of the game. And if it's the defense's fault, then talk to your coordinator who put you in those positions. Something. Because you can't just be calling out the other guy on the other team, who, by the way, just beat you. Anytime someone just beats you and you try to talk trash about them, you just look bad. So why do it?
I mean, basically in sports, you are what your record is.
And you're usually as good as your last game in the case of the NFL. Sometimes that's the way people treat it. I wanted to bring up the idea of who we thought was going to get the buys, because I think we've kind of talked about who we think is going to make the playoffs, and even after only 1 week of play, I don't know if that much has changed. But there are some buys up for grabs now. Green Bay's obviously got one in the NFC.
Yeah.
And the other one is really between the Saints and the 49ers. How do you see that shaking out?
See, right now, San Francisco, I mean, they're in the catbird seat. They win their last 3 games. They'll get to host. If seeding held according to form, San Francisco would host the Saints in a semifinal matchup. So I think it's utterly imperative for the 49ers to hold serve and win out, because I cannot foresee the 49ers traveling to New Orleans, playing in the Superdome in front of that crowd, and Drew Brees at home. I mean,
This is again, of course, you're making the statement that if the Niners were the 3 seed, that they would then win their first round playoff game, which I wouldn't give them credit for, but they could perhaps do it. I think they lose on Monday night this week to Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh probably needs this game maybe more than San Fran does. San Fran's going to close the year out with Seattle and the Rams. So I think those are easier games for them. And although I believe both of those games are on the road, I think they're very winnable games for them. But this will be the part where San Francisco tries to prove it. They had that game in the spotlight on the Thanksgiving night, and they didn't get the win. And now here's another game on Monday night where they'll be in focus and they'll be at home. So if they're really as good a team as everyone said they were all season long, and everyone thinks they still can be, then they need to beat Pittsburgh at home. And if they do, well, then maybe I'll believe. But until then, I like New Orleans to get that last bye.
All right, and let's move on to the AFC, where right now you have 4 teams that are currently 10-3. Baltimore right now has the tiebreaker ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers in their division. So, looking at it right now, Houston with their defense and rookie quarterback T.J. Yates are still holding on to that lead for the.
We don't have it mic'd up because this mic is out. Sorry, I was just trying to think about what we do about it. Oh, they hung up. All right. Sorry about that.
But so Houston right now, if they can hold serve, they'll be the one hosting throughout the playoffs. And they're another dome team. So dome teams, especially come playoff time, have an enormous advantage, especially with the crowd noise. And on defense, it's hard for the offense to hear the snap count, so you often have to go with a silent count. And that makes an even good pass rush a great pass rush. So if Houston, I mean, even despite all their injuries, if they can win out, I think they will be feeling really good about their chances to make it to the Super Bowl.
Whoa. Mighty words. So who do you like for the buys then? Have you got Houston? Who's getting the other one?
And I'm going to stick with Baltimore. I'm going chalk here. I'm going with the top 2 teams right now. And
What happens to the Pats? Are they losing to Tebow this weekend?
No, but I mean, if both teams win out,
True.
the New England will be on the outside looking in. So I think the Ravens are really coming into their own. They also have Ray Lewis, their inspirational leader, coming back this week.
Sure.
So that and the improved play from Joe Flacco, I think, will help them hold on for that 2 seed.
I have the Pats in Houston making it in. Houston, because I feel like they're the last 3 teams they play are Carolina, the Colts, and then the Titans. And I feel like those are 3 very winnable games, whereas I feel like all the other teams have at least one game where it's shaky. And now, again, let's not overlook the Titans because they're still sort of a factor at this point, and maybe they'll really need that game when it comes to it. But I feel like Houston's got the easiest path. And I still think that the Patriots, I don't know, for some reason, I just feel like they always find a way, and I dislike it. And usually things I dislike happen, especially in the NFL. So I feel like they're going to get one of those buys. But it's very conceivable, you're right, that they could actually win out and then not have that tiebreaker, which would still leave them in the third spot. And once the playoffs come anyway, I don't feel like the seed matter as much, except for having the home field advantage. But I don't know. I agree that certain teams are better in the dome, but I think in a case of like the Green Bay Packers, I don't think it matters where they play. And I think that sometimes when you put them in a dome, like last season when they got to go take on the Falcons, all of a sudden all their talented receivers and running backs are going to be able to have good footing, and all the elements don't come into play, and it makes them almost better.
Yeah, I mean, the Packers are so explosive, I don't think it.
But they never have to play away.
Correct.
They'll never have that problem this year. Unless the unthinkable happens.
And it won't.
And it won't. Well, we got a few minutes left here. I just wanted to mention the UVM men's basketball team is back in action this Saturday. They'll be taking on Iona at 1 p.m. I know we've faced Iona a number of times before, and I don't think UVM fans have never really sweated them, if you will. I think you should sweat the Gales because they're nice. They're second in the nation in points per game. They score 87 points a game. Second in assists, and then 8th in field goal percentage. 500%. That means every other shot they shoot goes in. They're scoring a lot. They got 2 guys that average double digits. 1 guy is averaging a double-double. Look out at the Patrick Gym this Saturday is what I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, loosen up your neck because it's gonna be like a tennis match out there, looking at both ends of the floor. I mean, Iona is
Hopefully.
a terrific. Yeah, right. The Iona is a terrific team. They're probably one of the best mid-major teams in the country this year. They probably one of the few lower conference teams that have a chance of making the NCAA tournament as an at-large team. They have 3 great players. Scott Machado leads the country in assists. They have Michael Glover, who initially was going to Seton Hall but didn't work out there, went to junior college and landed at Iona, so he's a Big East talent, almost averaging a double-double with 18 points, 9 rebounds a game. And a familiar face for last year, if you were following the NCAA tournament, Lamont Momo Jones, who was at Arizona starting, is now playing for Iona this year. He received a waiver because there were some family medical issues at home in New York, and the NCAA granted him a waiver. So that's 3 high-quality players that Iona has. So UVM will have their work cut out for them. So it'll be an interesting game. See if UVM can match Iona's tempo. I'm sure UVM will try to slow the game down and keep it in the 60s, but it'll be pretty hard with the potent offense that Iona has.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've seen a lot of low-scoring games at the Patrick Gym lately, and this does not. If it's one of those, I think we've got a better chance than if we try to play at their tempo. I don't think we're going to be able to keep up at that level. But you never know. We'll see on Saturday.
That's why we play the games.
That's why they play the games. I'm excited for March Madness already because this man knows college basketball and he loves it, and it's going to be good. We got less than a minute to go. Is there anything else you want to throw in real quick?
Just want to throw in Saturday, going back to Patrick Gym, this Saturday, Trevor Gaines will have his jersey retired, number 45. For you many UVM fans out there, Trevor passed away last year, and UVM's doing the right thing and retiring his jersey. He was a great player who's often credited with creating a winning culture here at UVM. And for the last 10 years, UVM's probably been one of the top mid-majors in the country. And a lot of it's traced back to Trevor Gaines.
And it'll be one of the first banners we've ever risen up with an actual rising ceremony. We'll be back next week with more Talkin' Trash, NBA special, and more holiday fun. Thanks for coming.
Ooh.